Okay, video number 3 of the organizational principles is motivation. Motivation, which is absolutely the hardest thing to give someone else, and definitely the hardest thing to give a teenager. And so, I'm going to give a disclaimer at this point, and in case you're thinking, what's a disclaimer? It's that thing that appears on television saying, warning, the following scenes may offend sensitive viewers, and you'll suddenly watch a Komodo dragon taking a baby goat's head off on a beach or something horrible like that. Now, the disclaimer is basically, in that case, the television show saying, if you carry on watching and are psychologically scarred, it's now your fault, not ours. We've warned you. It is now up to you whether you're going to continue or not. So they're basically disclaiming responsibility. They're unowning responsibility. Now here's my disclaimer. I cannot make you want to work. I can't. I cannot. I hope that I'll make you a much more efficient worker and you'll come to love learning through the stuff which I teach. But I can't reach into your brain and, oh, between the amygdala and the I love study. That is not going to happen. That button does not exist. But what I can do is give you a guideline that makes the decision to work easier. Not necessarily easy, but easier. So you're then going to be able to say, okay, I don't really want to do my geography this afternoon, but I've got a trick which helps me to get into it. And this is the idea. Think to yourself, why do people do things that they don't want to do? Think recently for yourself. Why have you recently done something that you don't want to do? Now, for any of you who've studied psychology and looked at the likes of Skinner and conditioning and even Pavlov, you'll know that generally speaking, there are 2 things which motivate people. The first one is the avoidance of pain. We are willing to go through something painful to avoid worse pain. So you might not want to study, but if your mother is saying, if you do not get that distinction, I am going to kill you, you might not want the studying, but you really wanted to get off your back. So, okay, Mum, I'm going to do it, back off. So we are willing to go through pain to avoid worse pain. That's the one motivation thing, but here's the other. If I offered you $1 million if you got an A for your test on Thursday, do you think you would crack a book? Now, I know that some of you watching are like, no, I'm loaded already, but thank you. But most people are like, oh yes, I'm willing to work if $1 million is there as a reward. Now, let's be clear. You don't want to study. You don't. But you do want the $1 million. And the pleasure completely outweighs the pain of going through those pages so that you can get that reward. In other words, people are willing to go through pain if there is sufficient pleasure. And that's the principle which we're going to use. Now, this is based on some work from cognitive behavior therapy. Anyone who studied psychology out there will probably have quite soon come across cognitive behavior therapy. Now, cognitive behavior therapy is a kind of therapy concerned with your cognitions, that means your thoughts, and your behaviors, your actions, the things that you do. And there's a relationship between them. So what they typically do is they either work on the behavior or the thought, and the other one follows in suit or in kind. Now, one of the techniques used by cognitive behavior therapists to help people change behavior is a system known as a token economy. Now, I'm going to put this very simply. It's a reward system. What happens is you stack up the thing that you don't want to do against stuff that you do want to do. And here's how you do it. Firstly, make a list of many things that you do often, which you do not want to get rid of and which are valuable for you. And it's got to be things you actually do, not things that you would like to do. Like, I would like to become an abstract expressionist painter. No. It's got to be something you're actually doing. Make a long list. Now, here are examples from my life. I am addicted to tea and coffee. I have a minimum of 5 cups of tea or coffee every single day of my life, minimum. It's never less than that, which means at least 35 cups of tea or coffee per week is going to go down this throat. By the way, at one stage, not for very long, fortunately, but I was up to 25 cups of coffee every single day at Oxford, and I'm not talking about the weak instant stuff. I mean the strong stuff that you push through metal to make it potent. That's a dark place. Don't go there. I clawed my way back to only 5 a day, so I have 35 cups of tea or coffee a week. That would go on my list, 35 cups of tea or coffee. I love walking my dogs because I live in this really beautiful place with beaches and mountains and so on all around. It's absolutely gorgeous. Yes, it's a chore, but I love it. I love taking my dogs walking. So unless I'm away working, that's going to happen minimum 5 days a week, because I like it. I like eating out. I'm not going to go to restaurants less than 3 times a week. I just enjoy the kind of vibe and the quality of the food, because I know a lot of really, really good places, and I live in a place with amazing restaurants, literally been named top food city in the world before. And so I love eating out 3 times a week. That would go on my list. I check my social media a lot. In fact, I wish this wasn't true, but I have an app which tells me. I log on to Facebook, for instance, 400 times a week. It's depressing, but it's true. Screen time. Please don't do this. Please don't do this. But I actually had a notice yesterday saying, you spent 9 hours and 56 minutes in front of the screen yesterday. Do you know why that extra horrified me? That's not counting the 3.5 hours of class which I gave students. So I'm going to have to do something about that. That needs a bit of an intervention. But nonetheless, 400 times I check social media, I put down. I also, let's say, enjoy watching Netflix, 10 hours of Netflix per week. So that would go on the list. Eventually I have a long list of things which I enjoy doing. Anytime I have to do some work, anytime work comes up which I don't really want to do, I write that opposite it. So for instance, I was recently writing a 380-page book. So I've now got to write these 380 pages. Now, I didn't wake up in the morning saying, yay, let me write those pages. But I did wake up saying, I need my coffee, And so I had a simple rule. You have to write 1 page of the book before your morning coffee. Boom, get the coffee. And then I'd have another rule. Every 100 words earns you 1 social media log-on. So later when I want to check Facebook, 100 words, Facebook. Another 100 words, Facebook. And before long, I'm pushing myself through the work. Now, I know what you're thinking, and you're correct. What you're thinking is, isn't that intensely annoying? Like, oh my word, that's absolutely ridiculous, because like, every time you want to check Facebook, now you've got to go and do a little bit of work. So here's the actual truth. Firstly, you just have to force yourself to do it. And so it's always a small amount of work. I can type up those 100 words pretty quickly. So it's not long. If ever I've got that itch, I can scratch it very quickly, write the 100 words, and then I get the pleasure that I want. You can't work with a huge amount of work and a big reward normally. Some people can, most people can't. So a little bit of work, small reward. A little bit of work, small reward. But I built in something else into the system. So I said to myself, okay, yeah, that first page gets you a morning coffee, then 100 words, gets you 1 time on social media. Because of course, remember, 400 times per social media, that means I'm going to do an awful lot of typing this week, just by following that rule. But I then built in something else, which said, okay, if you've done 3,000 words in a day, if you've done 3,000 words, you don't have to use the system anymore, which ironically is using the system. So that's almost a meta reward. So if I've hit that, I don't even have to think about the reward anymore. And so that inevitably got me doing at least 3,000 words every single day. And it pushed me through the work. It didn't take long, and the book was finished. Now, a couple of things which are relevant at this point. So the idea of a small bit of work and a small reward, small bit of work, small reward, helps you to push through the work that much more efficiently. It can't be huge. Best example I ever used of this, I would say, is at one stage I was reading Charles Dickens' Bleak House at university for one of my degrees, my English degree. I was doing Bleak House by Charles Dickens. I hated it. I literally fell asleep reading the pages. And so I decided, okay, buy myself a packet of crisps, 1 page, and I get a crisp, 1 page crisp, 1 page crisp. Corny, and you might say that weren't you actually thinking about the crisps the whole time? Sort of, but it did get me into the book. It got me into the book, and after a while, the crisps are gone, but I'm actually reading the book now. And that gets to the next point. You'll notice that when you're demotivated, it's starting which is hardest. Yes, keeping going is a something, but usually your problem lies with, I've now got to begin studying. And this gets you over that hump. The actual truth is, by the time I'd finished that first page in the morning, I was normally in it enough that I said, oh, well, I'm kind of flowing with this, let me just write a bit more. And I'd write 2.5 pages before I even went upstairs to get the cup of coffee. And then I would inevitably, after the coffee, just say, cool, let me go downstairs and quickly get to 3,000 words. Now the day is mine. But it breaks that initial resistance. This is a principle known as a token economy. In the manual, it's expressed slightly differently. So if you are actually doing the course and you're looking at your manual, you see it's expressed as earning and spending points. But you don't even have to make it that fancy or that difficult. It can just be a case of, I do not want to do this mathematics, but I've got to do one sum before I send the WhatsApps that I want to. I can only log on to Instagram after I've done this particular little bit of work, and it pushes you through the work. So here's my reward, here's the work, I kill the work, get the reward, kill the work, get the reward. And it helps you be that much more efficient and keep you motivated. And that is video 3 of organisation.